And as long as you've got your, okay, good. And as long as you've got your documentation that looks like that, then you're okay as well. You've got everything you need. Okay, good. In that case, let's get on. Right, so welcome Sharat to Administration Essentials for Attendance. In theory, we're going to be here for 2 hours. In practice, my experience is the class can complete sooner than that, which is why I was prepared to wait a few minutes for everyone to come in. So let's just have a look at what we're going to cover. And by the way, I am planning to just power straight through the 2 hours and do it without a break. So I hope you're okay with that. Either way, we won't finish later than the 2 hours after the start time, which is it's 9:15 in the UK. So we'll finish at 11, or probably before then. So let's have a look at what we're going to cover. What we're going to cover is this. In the table of contents on page 1, we're going to do an anatomy overview. We're going to do a case study overview, and we're going to have a look at the maintenance tasks. You know, the kinds of things that you might do if you're wanting to maintain your attendance solution. And then we'll have 3 lessons, which will be using timecard data to track attendance events. Lesson 2 is going to be about creating manual attendance events for use in a discipline policy, and then lesson 3 is going to be about adjusting thresholds in a total balance policy. Okay, so those are the things that we're going to do. We'll have some exercises. If you've got your documentation printed off, that's going to help you with the exercises, because it means you'll be able to look at that in front of you at the same time as you're manipulating the screen, okay, rather than having to flip backwards and forwards. Okay, but if you haven't got it printed off, then I think we'll just press on. Okay. You've got the printout. Amazing. Fantastic. Thank you. Okay, so that being the case, I think we can crack on. So I'm let me stop sharing that screen with you. I'm going to share this screen as well, which again really is just the workbook. Okay, but I'm going to invite you to turn down to the course introduction page. Okay, so here are the course objectives. Okay, this is what we want you to be able to do. We want you to be able to explain how attendance and other building blocks are constructed to support your organization's attendance policy or policies. Okay, we want you to be able to update your attendance solution in response to a change in attendance policies or a change in your business. We want you to be able to assign the corresponding blocks to the appropriate attendance policies and profiles, and we want you to be able to test and validate the configured attendance policies. Okay, so those are the things that we want you to be able to achieve by the end of this session. We've got plenty of hands-on that's going to enable you to do that. Okay, so I want you to first of all have a look at the attendance solution anatomy. Okay, so this is on page 2 of your workbook. Okay, page 2 of the workbook. So now the central point of the solution is going to be your attendance policies there. Okay, so they're configured to reflect your actual attendance policies in your workplace. So you probably have more than one. Okay, you probably have a number of different attendance policies, and there are different types of policies that can be configured to allow you to do things like move people between different discipline policies or levels depending on their attendance record. It might allow you to track the points that people incur when certain things happen, like not turning up for work and not phoning on. They might also trigger actions based on attendance behaviour, such as warnings. Okay, so that's what the central point is going to be your attendance policies. There are different types of attendance policies that you can get. Actually, you can have perfect attendance policies. You can have discipline policies, which are the most common ones. You can have formula policies, and you can have total balance policies, which are also fairly common. Okay, and a total balance policy is going to contain rules that track total points thresholds, which you can then use for rewarding or disciplining and so on, depending on the balance type that you select. Okay, so when the balance or the points bank falls within a certain range, then it's going to trigger a response. Okay, which could be an action. Okay, and it might involve moving the employee to a different discipline level if you use different discipline levels. And I have to say, in my experience of working with attendance, most organizations are not using different discipline levels. You just have one level. Okay, so your attendance policies are right at the center there. Okay, an attendance policy is going to include a tracking period. And a tracking period is a time period over which the policy is enforced, and it can be either a rolling tracking period or a fixed tracking period. Okay, and it's going to also involve a discipline level. Okay, so you can have different discipline levels if you want, perhaps one for new hires and perhaps one for normal. Okay. But you'd only have that if you have people on different levels subject to different sets of rules. Okay. They also involve balance types, so that you can track whether you are well, you can so that you can track events by points or by hours. Okay. You can also configure attendance actions, okay, and you will configure probably attendance actions. Okay, it might be something like a written warning or a verbal warning or a suspension or something like that. Those are attendance actions. Okay, and then they will involve possibly document templates. Okay, so we can configure document templates for things like written warnings, dismissal notices, movements to another discipline level, something like that. So you can configure those. Okay, so attendance policies will also, and often do, include attendance patterns. Okay, so you can have attendance events that are kind of associated with each other that will form a different pattern. Okay, you can also configure lost time events if you want to track actually the amount of time that's lost by people being late or absence. You can have perfect definition attendances, and you can combine events together to make configuration a bit simpler if you decide that certain types of attendance events, such as being late, not turning up, not phoning up, that kind of thing, if certain things will incur the same let's say, points penalty, something like that. So you can combine them together just to make things easier. Okay, so attendance events are critical to the implementation of any policy. Okay, so the system takes account of all the stuff that goes on in timekeeping, or rather it takes account of the stuff that you want it to take account of in timekeeping. For example, timekeeping exceptions, people being late, people being leaving early, people not clocking in, people not turning up for work, that kind of thing, timekeeping exceptions. It can also take account of comments against certain punches. It can take account of the pay codes that have been entered into the time cards and combined pay codes as well. Okay. You can also finally involve workflow notifications. Okay. And that means that managers can receive notifications when events occur or actions are required. Okay, and then finally, attendance profiles here. So attendance policies get grouped into profiles which are assigned to employees. Okay, so Workforce Dimensions knows which policies to apply to which people. Okay, so that's the anatomy. So all of those things are linked together in that way. You may not necessarily use all of those in a configuration. Some of them are optional. Yeah, such as attendance patterns, perfect attendance, lost time events, and combined events. All of those are optional. Okay, so those are some of the building blocks that we're going to be working with today. Let's just meet a few people. We're going to work with a company called MVP Athletics. Okay. Okay. They track their attendance so they can better manage their discipline for attendance and reward the following employee types. So that we're looking at sales associates and the retail managers. Okay. So here are the people that we're going to be interested in. Sean Ivan is your system administrator. Most of what we do today is Sean is going to do. So we'll log in as Sean, and you probably know if you've been on a class with me before or with anybody else. Sean's login is Sean Ivan, all one word, and his password is automate1 with an exclamation mark. Okay. In fact, all of these people have got the same password, and we're also going to meet Holly Ivan, and that's her login, and her password is the same. We've got Linda Hudson, who's an HR manager. We've got Helen Martin, who is a store manager for MVP Athletics. We've got Michael Martin, who's a department manager, looks after timesheets and attendance and so on, and creates schedules. And we've got Patricia Edwards, who is a sales associate. She clocks in and clocks out. She requests time off and so on. So those are the people that we're going to be working with today. Okay, so maintenance tasks. So we define attendance as a series of policies that govern the required work time of an employee or a group of employees. And we've got flexible tools to enable businesses to track and manage the aspects of the attendance process that they want to. Okay, so your job may be or may not be to do something like add a new attendance event, or create something new, make a change to a discipline level threshold or to a points value, or to add a new comment, maybe to modify a policy, maybe to adjust a profile or assign an employee to a given profile. So those are kinds of things that that you might do. Could you just, Sharat, could you just give me a quick resume of who you are and what you do? Okay, so you're a Kronos developer, but you don't work for Kronos, do you? Oh, you do work for Kronos. Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's okay. Well, that's interesting then. Okay, so you don't work for Kronos. You work for a different business. Yes, that was what I thought. Okay. Okay, right. Fair enough. Okay. So you're probably going to find some of this stuff fairly straightforward then. Have you worked with attendance and absence management before? No? Okay. All right then. So you're in for a treat. Now, as far as okay, you've worked with leave of absence. Yeah, we're not. This is a different part of that. So this is to do with not so much leave. Okay, in fact, nothing to do with leave really. Okay, thank you. All right, so when it comes to doing this stuff, we've got two discipline policies. Okay, there's one called MVP Athletics Normal Discipline, and there's one called MVP Athletics Normal Thresholds. So we've got two different types of policies that are two different policies really that are in force within this business. Okay, so first thing we're going to do then, in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over. I'm going to go back to here, and I'm showing you this. I'm showing you the same document. I'm just I just find it easier to work with the document when it's in the browser rather than in Adobe. Okay. So first thing we'll do then is we're going to look at using time card data to track attendance events. So let's have a look. We use attendance events with pay codes to track the work time that employees have missed. Okay, MVP Athletics has discovered that some managers allow employees to use their vacation time when they're out sick if they don't have any sick time left. Okay, the employee is still charged a point, but he or she did give notice needing out to be sick. Although taking a regular vacation day does not include attendance points, vacation time is used for sick time, and it does occur an attendance point. So what that means is, in MVP Athletics, if an employee is sick and they can't come into work and they've got no sick time left, then that employee has to take that time as vacation instead of sick, okay, if he wants to get paid. Okay, and because that person doesn't give sufficient notice, then it's going to incur a penalty point. Okay, whether it counts as sick or whether it counts as vacation. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by doing something easy, which is to create a comment, okay, that we can use with pay codes and an attendance event that uses the worked and pay code comment. So we're going to create a new comment. We're going to call it sick. Yep. And we're going to make it available to use when we put pay codes into a time card. Okay, so we can use it when we're editing punches. And then what happens is we're going to create an attendance event that uses both the comment sick and the worked pay code vacation. So when it sees the combination of those two things, then there's going to be an attendance event. Okay, and that attendance event is going to be added to the discipline policies that charge points. So whenever it sees that combination of things as an event, it's going to charge a point. Okay, so first thing we'll do then is we're going to create that comment. Then we're going to create the new event, and the event is going to be called vacation and sick. And then we're going to test it. Okay, so let's get logged in as Sean Ivan, and we're going to go over the page there, Sharat. So we're going to finish at the bottom here on 26. Okay, so here we go. Now, I don't mind whether you do it along with me or whether you wait until I've finished. It's entirely up to you. So let's get logged in as Sean Ivan. And the password is automate1. Okay, Sean's favorite place is the administration area, application setup. Okay, so comments live under common setup right at the top of that pile there. Let's just see if do I need to make that a bit bigger? No, I'm okay. All right, so we'll click on comments there. Okay, top of the common setup, we'll create a new comment. And the comment is just going to be called sick. Okay, we don't need to give it a code number. And because it's going to be active, we don't need to tick the inactive. Okay, so the question is now, where is this going to be used? And the answer is, we want to use it against pay codes. So we'll tick that. And we want to be able to use it when we are editing punches in the time card. Okay, so just take those two things, save, and you've got a new comment. Okay. So I'll give you a second to finish that off. Okay. So does that mean you're done? Tell you what, if you give me a tick to let me know, give me a tick. Click on the click on the thumbs up when you've done. Okay, great. Right, so what we'll do now is the second part of the exercise, which is we're going to create a new event that's going to deal with the comment and the associated vacation pay code. So here's where we go. So I'm going to go home, and here we're doing attendance setup. Attendance setup, and we're going to go for attendance events and patterns. Okay, so close to the bottom of that block there. Here are the ones that are already created, and there are quite a lot of them. You may not have as many of these within the businesses that you work with. Okay, but we're going to create a new one. And this one we're going to call vacation and sick comment. Okay, and we'll call it something like vac suck. Okay, because I think we can only have 6 characters. Right. Okay, we can. No, that's my fault. Sorry. Control C, Control V. Right. So the code can only be 6 characters. The display name, I think the display name can be the same as the attendance name. So I'll copy that, paste that in there. Okay. Right. So what kind of event is it? The answer is it is a worked pay code and comment. So it's a combination of a worked pay code with a comment. Okay, which pay code? The answer is vacation, which you can expect to find right down at the bottom because they're in alphabetical order. Okay, and how are we going to track the pay code? Is it going to be the amount of time, or is it going to be the number of occurrences? The answer is we're going to be looking at the number of occurrences. Okay, so, and then which comment is going to be associated with it? The one we've just created called sick. And that is your new attendance event. Save, and we'll do save that. So I'll give you a moment to tick that. And when you've done that, give me a tick or something like that. Great, thank you. And now we'll do the third bit, which is we're going to add this attendance event into a policy, because unless we do that, it's going nowhere and it's doing nothing. Okay, so the policy we're going to add it to is the one called MVP Athletics Normal Discipline. Okay, which is the policy that most people within that organization are associated with. So to do that, you can do return. We'll click on the house. And then we'll go to attendance policies. And the one we're interested in is the one called MVP Athletics Normal Discipline. So it's a discipline policy, and that's the one that we're interested in, the fourth one down, MVP Athletics Normal Discipline. Okay, so if you click on that, that will enable us to edit it. Okay. And if you go to the Incident Rules tab, which is the second one along, then we're going to add this event or pattern into the incident rules. Okay, so click on the plus sign and we'll add a row. Drop down the event pattern thing and we're going to put in the one that we just created, which was called vacation and sick comment. And again, right down at the bottom because it begins with V. So we'll have that. How many free incidents do we want people to have? None. Okay. Yeah. No freebies for this one. And if you do one of these, then you're going to have You're going to have 1 point. Can I remove the black box? Okay, just a minute. Yep, sorry. Is that better? Yeah, it does get in the way a bit, doesn't it? Yeah, okay. All right. Let's move that right out of the way as best we can. Okay, so once we've put in the vacation and sick comment as an event there, no free incidents, 1 point penalty. If you do one of these, then you can click Save. In fact, you can do Save and Return. I'll just do Save so you can see what it looks like. Can I give a go-through on each field which is available in an attendance policy? Well, not really. We don't really have time for that in the class, but I can have a quick. We can have a quick look through these if you want. Okay, so you have a policy name, you have a policy type. So okay, it's perhaps better if okay. So you have a policy type which is a discipline. That's the most common type of policy that you get. Okay, and you can choose your discipline level, which could be normal or it could be new hire. Well, you know, those discipline levels are something that you also choose to create. Okay, it's going to come with a tracking period, which is either going to be fixed or rolling, depending again on what you create. And you can create these tracking periods. In this one, we've got a 12-month fixed tracking period, but you could have just depending on your business, it could be you could create 6 months one or a 3 months one or something like that, and it can be rolling. So if I was to click on rolling there, you'd have the option for the different rolling periods. Okay. Description of the policy, and that's its name. It's going to have a reference start date, so when are we starting to track people? Okay, which might be when they join the business, or it might be when there's a change. Okay, you can be tracking points. In this case, you're tracking points, but you could be tracking hours as well. And you've got an expiry period for when those points are going to expire. Okay, and then here you have the incident rules. Okay, so what events are we interested in tracking? So this is the stuff that it picks up from the time card. Yeah, so whenever it sees these things in the time card, it processes them and assigns the correct number of penalty points or hours to it, depending on how you are tracking. Okay, you can have an action associated with these. You can have a movement to a discipline level. Okay, and there are some other fields on here. Okay, there doesn't appear to be anything under. Okay, if you're wanting to track if you like wanting to track the frequency of incidents, you can put them on here, and over here you've got tracking for time collection. Okay, so if you're actually collecting time rather than points. Okay, so that's an example of an attendance policy. There are different types of attendance policy. This is a discipline policy, but you can also have you can have perfect attendance policies. You can have balance policies. You can have formula and previous actions policies. There are different types of policies that you could potentially configure. So I'm going to ignore the rest of those changes. I just want to check that actually we did save what I did there. What was it? MVP athletics, normal discipline, wasn't it? Let me just open that up. Incident rules. Is that the one? This wasn't the one, was it? Hang on a minute. MVP athletics, normal discipline. Have I assigned the wrong one? Hang on a minute. Return. Attendance policies. MVP athletics. No. Okay, that's the wrong one. So, okay, MVP athletics, normal discipline. Okay, so don't do the ones with the one in front of it. So that's the one that we want. So let's just make sure I've just updated that correctly. Good. All right, that's the one. MVP athletics, normal discipline. There are a couple there with similar names. Okay, so that's the one. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to test it. Okay, so we can test it by making some changes to a time card. Okay, so we've got Peter Edwards. Peter works for Michael. Michael gets a call from Peter, who works the night shift, and says he needs to be out this evening to stay overnight with his son because his mother's away on business. And Peter wants to use some vacation time for this request. Okay. So we're going to use a vacation pay code, and we're going to put the sick comment in there into Peter's time card, and then we'll check that Peter actually gets charged that point that we've configured. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll go in as Michael Martin. We're going to choose the current pay period. We're going to check the accruals to see if he's got some holiday, and then we're going to put in vacation in the pay code in the time card, and we're going to put in the sick comment against the pay code. Okay, then we'll apply the rules, and if we've done that, then we should find that Peter gets charged a point for doing that. So here's the deal. Right, so first of all, sign out. Let's log in as Michael Martin, and his password is automate1 exclamation mark, of course. There's Michael. Let's have a look at his people's time cards. So time over on the left hand side and employee time cards. And we're interested in Peter Edwards. So you should find Peter just there, about I don't know, about 10th one down. So we click on him, it's going to open his time card. Any minute now. You can be doing these at the same time as me while while you're waiting if you want. So by default, we're in the previous pay period. Let's have a look at the current pay period. So current pay period is going to be this evening, isn't it? So first of all, we'll check the accruals down at the bottom. Check the accruals, and we'll see how much holiday time he's got or vacation time. Scrolling down. Yep, we got 80 hours, so we're fine. Close down the accruals tab. So today being the 20th, okay, all right. So he's not scheduled to work today, is he? That's interesting. So I think what we'll do, let's do it for yesterday. Let's do it for yesterday. It should still have the same effect. Okay, so we're going to put in a pay code. Pay code we're going to put in is vacation. The amount is going to be 8 hours. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to put here, right-click on that, and we're going to put in the amount. Okay, put a comment against the amount. Comment we're going to pick is sick, the one that we created. Okay, and we'll add that and apply. So we've now got the vacation pay code and we've got the comment of sick there. Okay, so that should be enough. Right, when you've done that, you can click save. Okay, now then we're going to go to his attendance details. Did I save that? Yeah, I'm just waiting. Okay, so now we can go to see his attendance details. So at the moment, I don't think he will have any points. Well, actually, let's note the number of points he's got. Currently, he's got 9.5 points. Okay, don't worry about the time. We're not tracking time in these exercises, but in his business, maybe they are. Okay, so 9.5 points. Okay, now what we'll do is we will we'll manually run the rules. So apply rules. So now what we're going to do is get the attendance processor to look at the information that's in the time cards. When is it going to run it from? Where do we mention the point starts amount? Okay, well, currently he's on 9.5 points, whatever that means. Okay, points when you start a policy, when you start the configuration, normally you'll start with people on 0 points, and they'll accumulate them as they go through, and they have lates and earlies and different types of events. Does that answer your question? Yeah, so whenever an employee breaks a discipline, his points increase. That's the idea, yes. So you decide which events constitute a points penalty, and that's what we did. We created an event, didn't we? And the event is the combination of him being with the vacation pay code and the sick comment, okay, because he needs to take some holiday at short notice to cover his son being sick. Yep, and when that happens, it's going to give him an extra point. Okay, that's what we told the system to do. So now what we're going to do is we are going to apply those rules. So we're going to get it to manually look at the time card and pick up what we've just had to put in. So we're going to use the default start date for applying those rules. Okay, and the end date is going to be today. Okay, and what should happen is when we apply these rules, so I would expect that points balance to increase to 10.5. Now normally, of course, the attendance processor, will this override the frequency? What do you mean? Okay. Well, so the we're measuring over a 12-month period. Yep. So he'll keep that point for 12 months, and then it will drop off. Okay. So you can see here that we've got a balance change of 1. So it's given him that 1 point. Actually, it's ignored his previous balance point. Maybe that's something to do with old points that have dropped off or something like that. Just to do with the way the system has been set up for training. Okay, so we've got a points balance there. That's what he's been charged for. Okay, so if you've got 1 point there, then we've done it right. Yes, I can move the black box. It's a pain, isn't it? Yeah. Sorry. So when you've done that, if you click on the thumbs up, So when you've done that, that should take you to the bottom of page 6. Okay, you have a question? Yep, 1 point has been charged. Okay, so the balance amount here is the day end balance. It's there. Okay, I don't know what happened to those 8.5 points. They're probably a hangover from some other time. Yeah, I think we can ignore them. Yeah, it will tell you the day end balance there. Okay. Notice if you scroll down to the previous days, there are no balances. There's no balance there. Okay, so the balance at the start of the day was 0, and the balance at the end of the day, on that day when he incurred it, which was the 19th, is 1 point. Yep. Yep. And that is the balance change. Okay, good. So that's what the attendance page is telling us. Okay, right. So we've successfully managed to create an event that we've added to a discipline policy, and we've tested it. And what we tested was that when this event happens, which it has done, that Peter is charged a point for that. So if we hadn't added the pay code in, or we hadn't added the comment in, then the attendance processor would not have picked it up, because it picks up, in this case, it picks up that combination of the pay code and the comment. Yeah. Right, so what we'll do now is we'll move over onto the next page, page 7. Let's move that out of the way. Page 7, and we're going to adjust the normal policy. Again, this time we're going to include a late-in exception event. Okay, so what we're going to do in this case, so in addition to pay codes, organizations can also choose to tie time card exceptions to the attendance policy. So if someone is late in, and MVP wants to begin tracking when people are late coming into work, and charge them 2 points if they are late in without reason. Okay, so we're going to adjust the policy to deal with this new update. Okay, so we're going to edit MVP Athletics Normal Discipline. We'll look at the incident rules. We'll create a new event, and we're going to create an event called late in, or rather we're going to select the event called late in. So the late in event already exists. We're just going to add it into our policy, and we're going to give it 2 points, and we'll test it later. Okay, so we'll just do it for now. Right, so here's how we do it. First of all, we get logged out as Michael, and we get logged in as Sean. Okay, so here we go, Sean. Right, so now then, we're going to go again to administration. We're going to go to application setup, attendance setup, and again, it's attendance policies. And again, we're looking at MVP Athletics Normal Discipline, the same one that we were looking at last time. Click on that to edit it. And incident rules, we're going to add another one here. Click on the plus, you get a new blank row. And from here, we're going to have an event. We're going to look for an event called late in. How many free late-ins are we going to allow before we start giving people points? Answer 0. How many points are we going to give them? Answer 2. Save and return. Okay, so if you give me a tick when you've done that, please, Sharat. Great, thank you. Okay. So that being the case, we've updated our attendance policy with 2 things now. Next thing, we're going to move on to page 8. Okay, and on page 8, we're going to start looking at something else, which is creating manual attendance events. So up to now, what we've done is we've created events that are related to the time card and what happens in the time card, what happens when people are late in, what happens if they call in sick, and things like that. Okay, but what you can also do is create events that can be part of a discipline policy that are not related to the time card. Okay, not related to timekeeping. Okay, so for example, in this case, it might be failing to have the right equipment on. Okay, maybe you're not wearing the right boots, or you've forgotten your overall, or you've lost your badge in this case. Okay, or maybe you've been insubordination. Maybe you've been rude to the manager or something like that. Okay, so we've been decided to start tracking safety violations in normal discipline. So we're going to create a manual attendance event and add it into the policy. So first of all, let's create the safety violation attendance event. Okay, we're going to call it safety violation. It could be something like not wearing goggles or not wearing the right boots or gloves or something like that. Who knows? Right, so go home. Go to attendance events and patterns. We're going to create a new event. Okay, we're going to call it safety violation. Okay, its display name, oops, Control A, Control C, Control V. It's I'm going to call this safety. I know it says in the book SFT, but you know, we've got enough characters for safety. And the category is going to be other. Okay, it's not data driven, so it's not driven by the data that appears in the time card or anywhere else for that matter. So it's going to be a manual one. Save. Okay, so we now have a safety violation. Okay, and what we'll do is we're going to put it in the normal discipline policy. Okay, same one as we did before. So we can do save and return, home, attendance policies, MVP athletics normal discipline, incident rules, add a row, add a pattern, and this is going to be safety. So there's safety violation, the one we just created. Okay, what happens if we do one of those? Well, we don't get any we don't get any second chances or anything like that. You get deducted 2 points. Not only that, you're going to get a verbal warning with it. And save. So that's what I'd like you to do. Create that event and then add it to the policy. And if you give me a tick when we've looked at the policy, when you've updated the policy, then we'll have a look at testing it. Who gives the warning? Well, the that would normally be given by that appears as an action in the on the manager's on the manager's home page. So someone physically has to do it, but what this does is it creates that that event and that action, and then the manager has to pick it up and then literally print off, well, if go and meet that person and say, look, this is what's happened. Yep. Okay. Just tell me when you come back then, Sharat. Okay, great. Thank you. Right, so the next thing we're going to do then is we are going to do some testing. So going on here, we are on page 9, right? So here's the test. Michael notices that Patricia Edwards is wearing open-toed shoes to work today. Oh dear, it's against the company safety policy. So what we're going to do is enter the event into the attendance record. So this one doesn't go on the timesheet. It's not a time-related event. We're going to go straight into her her attendance record, because it's not really to do with attendance. Well, it kind of is, but you know, it's a discipline. It's a discipline thing. It's a safety violation. So this is what we're going to do. Okay, so we're going to do go to attendance. Okay, and we're going to add an event straight into the attendance. We're going to apply the rules, and we're going to check that we get 2 points added to the points balance. Okay, and we get the safety violation, and it triggers a verbal warning. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. We'll get signed out first of all, and we'll go in as Michael. It's his job to do this stuff. Michael Martin, automate 1. Okay, so we're going to do go to attendance. So we've got that attendance thing here, this attendance title. And if you see at the bottom it says go to attendance, I'm going to click on that, and it's going to take us to the attendance homepage, which looks something like this. Okay, so here's the attendance. So we've got nothing that demands any attention at the moment. If I open up all others, I can see all of these people here. Nobody's got any problems until now, but Patricia Edwards, there she is. Okay, so if I highlight her, we want to click on attendance details. Okay, so let's just highlight her. Let's close that away. Okay, so highlight her, and attendance details up at the top here. This will give us details. Okay, so at the moment she's got 0 points, so we're fine. So the start is 0. The period start by the time. Don't worry about the time. We're just looking at points here, so there's nothing at the moment. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add an event. Okay, and the event is going to be for today, which is the 20th. The event is going to be that safety violation that we just created. Okay, we don't need to put in an amount because there's no amount associated with it. Okay, and we don't need to worry about the time. Okay, so save and apply rules. Now, normally the rules processor works overnight. Yeah, but we can't wait till overnight, so we're going to apply the rules manually now, which is what we're doing here. Okay. Okay, so what should happen is we should get 2 points to the balance. Yes, we've got that. 2 points at the end of the day, period end balance. Okay, so that's worked okay. The balance change is 2 points. That's worked okay. We've got a safety violation. Yes, we have. There it is. Open that up. We get a bit more detail about it. And we've also got a verbal warning. So once you've got that, then that's done the right thing. And by the way, if you just, once you've done that, if you go back to your home page, you should see here on the manage attendance that that Michael's now got something he's got to deal with. Okay, he's got to give that verbal warning. Okay. Okay, but we're not going to do that in this class. We're just looking at the configuration and the testing. So give me a tick when you've finished all of that then, please, Sharat. Okay, great, thank you. So now let's move on to page 10, and we're going to do the final lesson, which is about adjusting thresholds in a total balance policy. So this is going to be a different policy, but still within the same organization. You can run multiple policies in parallel. Organizations, it says here, typically use total balance policies to activate attendance hours when point balancers meet policy thresholds. Okay, so MVP has changed its attendance policy after a series of unwanted terminations in order to increase employee engagement and offer a more flexible policy to encourage work-life balance. Okay, so basically what was happening is that the policy that they had was too strict, and people just kept getting terminated because they kept going over the balance limits and were getting terminated. Okay, so they've decided to soften up a bit and be a bit more flexible. Because they want people to stay once they've trained them, and they want to have a policy that encourages work-life balance. Okay, so they're going to soften up a bit, which is nice to know. All right, so here is their current situation. Okay, they've got two policies, right? They got one for new hires, for new people, and they've got one for people who have been here for a normal amount of time. Okay, so first of all, Going down to the bottom, you can see that they're if they have perfect attendance for 90 days, they're going to move to the normal discipline policy where things are a bit less strict. So they're kind of on trial for the first 90 days of their employment. Okay, so what happens is they've got a discipline policy that charges points and handles freebies and gets added into a points balance. They've got a discipline policy related to a job abandonment, so if they do 3 consecutive no call, no shows. And they've got a total points balance, which is monitoring people's total balances of points, and when they go over a threshold, it triggers things. Okay, and so what happens is, once you get 1 point, you get a written warning, and if you get 2 points, you get terminated. That's pretty strict. Okay, that's pretty strict. Okay. Okay, but that's their total balance policy for new people, okay? So they're going to be pretty strict on that. Now, their normal, once they've been there for 90 days, says we've got a discipline policy that manages points and handles free incidents, okay? We've got a discipline policy for job abandonment for the 3rd consecutive no call, no show. Okay, so that remains the same for normal as it does for new hire, but they've got a total balance policy here, okay, which is 3 points gives you a verbal warning, 5 points gives you a written warning, 7 points gives you termination. That's what they're finding a bit too strict, really. So what we're going to do is, scrolling down here, we're going to say two points is going to give you a verbal warning. Actually, that's even more strict because previously it was 3. Okay, but you have to wait now 6 points before you get your written warning, and 8 or more points is going to result in termination. So they're going to change things slightly just to improve their employee engagement. So we're going to have a look now at setting up the MVP Athletics normal thresholds total balance policy. Okay, it's not the same one that we looked at before. We're going to look at the rules, and we're going to enter the balances. Okay, and what triggers a verbal warning, what triggers a written warning, what triggers a termination, and so on. Okay, then we'll have a go at testing it. Okay, so first of all, Sean. Okay, so Sean's favourite place is administration, application setup, and we're going to be doing attendance setup and attendance policies. Okay, so the one that we're interested in is not the athletics normal discipline, but the athletics normal thresholds. Okay, so it's that one down at the bottom. It's a total balance policy. Okay, and we'll click on that. Okay, and now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the rules. Okay, and when do we get a verbal warning? The answer is after 2 points. I'm going to change that 3 to a 2. Okay, but I'm going to increase that verbal warning thing to a 5. think that's the right. I think that's the right thing, isn't it? So above 6 points and above will give you will give you a written warning. Okay, up to 6 points will give you a verbal warning. Okay, so next thing then is we're going to go that. So the second line is going to be from 6 points upwards to 7.99 there. And that's what's going to give us a written warning. Okay. And then in the third line, we're going to have the termination. So that's going to be 8 and 8.99. You could actually just as easily you could just as easily delete that middle row, yeah, and keep that, because we've got 2 there that does the same, and the third one that doesn't do anything different either. Okay, so once you've done that, you can save. Okay, question from you then. Will he get a verbal warning every time the point increases up to 6? What a good question. I wouldn't have thought so. No, once it, no, I don't think so. Oh, well, actually, I don't know. I don't know. Oh, that's a great question, actually, Sharat. I'm going to take that away and I'm going to try and find out an answer for you. So I don't know for sure. Right, so once you've done that, then you've updated that policy and you can save it. Duplicate rule has been entered. Okay, let's just delete one of those then. And you can save that. Okay, you're getting the same error. Well, I just, yeah, I just did a return and I found that it saved it anyway. Okay, good. That's good. Right, so final thing that we're going to do then is we're going to do some testing. Okay, so what we're going to do is we've got an employee. His name is Andrew Smith. He arrived late to work every day last week because he recently moved and he's still getting used to the bus schedule. Okay. So manager Michael Martin, wants to ensure that instead of a written warning, Andrew receives a verbal warning on his attendance record so he can provide proper coaching to Andrew. Andrew, you need to get up in time and make sure you get that bus. Okay, that's the kind of coaching that that he's going to give him. Okay, so we're going to go to the time cards and we're going to open the previous pay period and we're going to put in some punches from last Sunday through to Thursday. Okay, so of course what we're doing is we're just doing a bit of hacking here. Okay, to test it. So sign out. And sign in. So Michael Martin. Oh dear. Okay, let's try again. Okay. Time. Employee time cards. Let's find Andrew Smith. Let's get that out of the way. I'm going to sort reverse order to bring the Smiths to the top. And there's Andrew Smith, fourth one down. Previous pay period. Okay, so that's according to this we have to do from Sunday through to last Thursday. So we're in at 11:15 p.m. So 2315 and out at 7. 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 And we're going to save that time card. So he was late 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that should be enough to take him into the verbal warning arena. Okay, that's the idea right now. So we can go to attendance details. Okay, notice that it doesn't have any balance problems at the moment. Okay, so that's a good thing. Right, let's apply the rules. We're going to use the default start date. Okay, and the end date is going to be last Friday's date. So last Friday. So last Friday was being September the 7th, was it? Last Friday was September the 6th, I think, wasn't it? Okay, what is the default start date? Okay, so the default start date is the earliest date since from when the last set of rules were applied. Okay, so when you apply rules, yeah, you want to apply them either from normally it picks up the default date, the default start date, which was the earliest date of when the last rules were applied. Okay, so it stops you needing to type it in manually. You can put it in manually if you want to. Okay, right, so where were we? We were looking at default start date and last Friday's date. Okay, so last Friday I think was, goodness, what was it? It was the Friday the 6th, I think, wasn't it? Let's apply that. Okay, so we should see that he gets a verbal warning instead of a written warning. Okay, let's just see if he's getting that. Hmm. Okay, I think we've ended up with somehow we've ended up giving him 2, but he's ended up with too many points. Okay, so he's ended up with a termination. That wasn't supposed to happen. I think it's picking up all sorts of things like long lunches and things like that that it's not supposed to do. Okay, but scrolling down, we're getting the verbal warning here. So going back down to the first, I think to be honest, I think the exercise is wrong. So after we started on the, so we were okay up to there. So on the first day, we ended up with 2. That was enough to give him a verbal warning. And then on the following day, he ended up with 4.5 points. So that is still on a verbal warning. And then going up there, he'd done that again. He'd ended up with with 7 points there, and he's ended up with a written warning. Okay, so I think the exercise is slightly wrong. Okay, good. Is it possible to give a similar go through on other options in attendance module? Not really. I mean, there's training on Knowledge Map that you can go through. This is the kind of the hands-on thing, but within Knowledge Map, there's there's online training that you can do, but it's not instructor led. It's just taking you through the taking you through other setups. So the short answer is there isn't really. Okay. Right. Well, congratulations, Sharat. We've managed to still make it through before the end of the session. So well done to you. Congratulations for doing the exercises with me. And I hope you found it useful. And I'll take away that question for you. And there's just one more thing that I would ask from you, if you wouldn't mind doing a survey for me, a very short one. There's only about 6 or 8 questions just about this class, and you can score the questions, the answers between 0 and 10, where 9 or 10 mean excellent, you were very pleased. 7 or 8 mean it was good. Anything less than good, anything less than 7, 6 or less, means that there were things that you were unhappy with. So I'm not telling you what to score. I'm just telling you what the numbers mean. That's all. So thank you very much for your time. It'll take you about 1 minute to do that. So thanks very much, and I wish you a good rest of day. Thanks. You too. Have a great day. Bye.